Go right ahead.
Test, test, test.
1 second.
Sure.
Well, good evening. Welcome to our January called school board meeting. This called meeting has one item on the agenda, but before we do that, is there anybody here to speak on public comment on the called meeting? On the called meeting with, yes. If you'll just go ahead and step up there to the podium. And you also need to fill out the paperwork that's in front of you with, right, there's a form. If you'll just fill it out when you get done. No, you can talk first, but here's what I asked, 3 minutes, and we keep our conversation civil, okay? You may begin. State your name and address, please, ma'am.
Is it not on? Okay. Well, I would begin with the words that Judge Priester used in describing the decision, and she called it arbitrary and excessive. I read the 66-page report that Judge Priester wrote, and I attended all of the hearings except for the final one, which was in front of Judge Priester. There were many junctures in this case that could have been handled a lot differently. To begin with, the principal didn't really treat Matt fairly. He did not get a chance to talk to the parent who lodged complaints. He really had no extensive conference with the parent or the principal to try to remediate whatever the problem was. And I believe this decision was rendered in a political environment that was just toxic. Matt has been given excellent evaluations for 16 years, and to fire a tenured teacher after 16 years of excellent evaluations is pretty excessive, agreeing with the judge, pretty arbitrary. Asking someone to remediate his instruction who has no degree in education, I'm referring to Mrs. DeLoach, no classroom experience, yet she determined what he needed to be doing to remediate what he was doing in the classroom, and he was really very respectful in trying to do that. He wrote a letter to Superintendent Cox, very humble, very asking, for advice and agreeing that he would do what he was asked to do. I have a feeling that this is a grudge match. You are not being fair to the teaching profession. This is a slap in the face to teachers. I taught AP English. I taught English in Sullivan County for 30 years. Many works of literature that I taught had language that would be offensive, but we're talking about juniors and seniors taking a contemporary issues class. And I'm sorry, in today's world, you've got to respect their intelligence and their sophistication. And just to arbitrarily decide that vulgar language, when Matt tried to mute it, practice muting it, that was in the judge's decision also, that even students testified to that fact. And technology in the classroom is a hit or miss thing. It can be your friend, it can be your foe. If it works, it's great. If it doesn't, it's a problem sometimes. So a teacher with 16 years of excellent evaluations that students loved, who was attempting to teach critical thinking to his students, and there's a lot more that can be said. He wasn't even given a chance to go back, and the students were going to research an alternative opinion to the fact that they were talking about white privilege.
Your time has expired.
Well, I would ask you to look in your hearts and realize that you're not being very favorable to teachers in this county if you insist on Matt's dismissal. Thank you.
My name is Ken Oster. I live at 145 Ridgecrest Road in Bristol, Tennessee. I just will be succinct. This has been an absurdity. An absurdity. You are letting go the best teacher that you have in Sullivan County. I taught for 35 years in the public schools of Tennessee, Sullivan County, and Bristol, Tennessee, and Kingsport, Dobbins-Bennett. There is no reason for appealing this decision. The decision was made by a judge who was well-versed in the case and took quite a long time to find her decision to rule in favor of Matt Hahn. I am beside myself in imagining that you folks can spend more of our taxpayers' money to pursue this travesty. I do not understand how a woman who has a bachelor's degree in accounting can be given the authority to reprimand a teacher who has for 16 years done his best to accommodate his students and to get them to think. Do y'all think? Do you think? Have you thought? I don't know. I really am confused about why this man would be at your mercy. It is an absurdity, which is, if you teach for as long as my wife and I have, you understand there are lots of those. But you need to consider the money and the man. Thank you.
Thanks, sir.
Okay. At this time, our board attorney, Chris McCarty, is going to be joining us via a phone call. He's not available to be here in person, and he is traveling. So I've got my phone. I'm going to put it to the microphone. Let's just do a sound check one more time, make sure everybody can hear Chris. Chris, would you be able to give us a sound check?
Yes, good evening. Testing.
I believe we're good, Chris. I'm gonna turn this over to you, and so that you can address the board this evening.
Sure. Good evening, ladies and gentlemen of the board. Good evening, anyone who's in attendance. Again, my name is Chris McCarty. I'm board counsel for Sullivan County Schools, and I appreciate everyone letting me join via phone tonight. I'll try to be brief. I mean, the board certainly understands where we're at with this case. Everyone has been provided a copy of Chancellor Priester's opinion. And I'll say this, I have the utmost respect for the Chancellor, but I disagree with the Chancellor. I respectfully disagree with her. This, as much as people want to make this about lots of different things, at the end of the day, this was about a teacher who was not following the Tennessee Teacher Code of Ethics and who was basically being insubordinate multiple times within one school year. If we go through the brief recitation of the facts, in the fall of 2020, Mr. Hahn basically did an online, obviously everybody knows that was during the COVID period, and he put together an online lesson. And there was a period during that online lesson, and this was never part of the case, this part, but it was a personal finance class that it was posted to, but it was a contemporary issues lesson, and that mistake doesn't matter. But the point is, there was a statement made that, quote, right privilege is a fact. To be very clear, as much as there's been some national media coverage that has not gotten this correctly, He was never disciplined for that. What he was Dr. Brent Palmer, who was certainly a supervisor for Mr. Hahn, followed up with him because we had some parent complaints and simply reminded him to make sure that he was offering, quote, varying points of view to the students rather than shutting down conversation and basically taking a one-sided approach to things. That's not me talking to say give varying points of view. That's not Dr. Palmer talking. That's the Tennessee Teacher Code of Ethics, which is in Title 49 of our code. That was in the fall of 2020. After that, in early 2021, Mr. Hahn assigned an article for the students to read called The First White President by Ta-Nehisi Coates. That article had numerous examples of just vulgar language. I won't go into some of those terms today, but anybody that's been through part of this process has seen the article as part of the record. He didn't get parental permission for that. He didn't ask anybody's permission. He didn't seek administrative guidance for that. He just went out on his own after he'd already been talked about, following the code of ethics, doing things the right way. And he just, again, did it his way. And when he did so again, he was reminded, don't do that. Don't be unprofessional and provide students unredacted copies of materials that are inappropriate, vulgar, profane. And also, again, was reminded, please make sure you're providing, and he was directed to, varying points of view to your students. Make sure they're given not just one side of the political aisle, but all sides and multiple sides. And I just heard the citizens talk, and I respect anybody that comes before a public body and voices their opinion, and everybody has the right to in America. I really believe in that. But to attack Ms. DeLoach is unfounded. If you sat through the hearing, which I believe both people indicated that they did, and part of the record is clear, Ms. DeLoach made that decision in conjunction with Dr. Cox. She's the assistant superintendent of school. He was the director of schools at the time with decades of experience in the classroom as an administrator. He testified that was the case. She testified that was the case. That is uncontested that decision was made by administrators placed in those positions by the Sullivan County school system. After that, and I know that there's been talk of Mr. Hahn being remorseful, but his actions and his words didn't show that. Within a very short period of time, after he assigned that article and was given a reprimand by administration for that and given another directive to make sure he's doing things the right way, he plays a video, a spoken word poem, which again has all kinds of profane and vulgar language in it. And right before he plays the video in class, not showing remorse, he jokes about it and basically says, this is going to get me fired. I don't know how anyone can believe he was being remorseful when he's joking and basically rubbing it in the face of those that have directed him to do things the right way and making a joke out of it. He plays the video. He did. I admit that. And it's in the record. Nobody's contested it. He made attempts to try to mute it. But two things are important that are left out there. One, he was unsuccessful. And two, closed captioning was on. So the students could read every single word that we're talking about. And when later Mr. Hahn was asked about that by administration, he specifically said he had successfully muted it. He had successfully bleeped those things out, which was untrue. The other thing that we're glossing over is after that video was played, a student came up to Mr. Hahn, and I won't get into specific students, but the student essentially made a comment that they were upset with some students that disagreed, let's say, with the author of the spoken word poem, that had different worldviews. And Mr. Hahn belittled the opinions of those other students in earshot of the very students he's supposed to be teaching, the very students he's supposed to make sure they're there, and he's respecting their opinions, and he's making sure that everybody has those access to varying points of view and is learning how to think and not what to think. And that's what over and over again happened within a very short period of time with Mr. Hahn, is that he just wasn't listening to directives. He wanted to do things his way rather than listening to not only his administrators and his supervisors, but the Tennessee Teacher Code of Ethics. I know the chancellor has been referenced tonight, and again, I respect the chancellor's decision. Another thing that's forgotten there, though, is that we had a hearing officer, Dale Condor, who did this before. He sat there in person for multiple days and listened to this testimony live, read the record live, and he made a decision resoundingly affirming, which is supporting the decision of Dr. Cox to terminate Mr. Hahn. After that, we had a public board hearing in which this board, some members have changed, but the board itself received the entire record. There was a full hearing in which Mr. Hahn's attorney came and went through her positions. I went through the positions on behalf of the director. The board resoundingly affirmed the position of Mr. Conder. I am recommending that we appeal this decision. I respect the chancellor again, but I don't believe she got this one correct. And I think if you allow teachers to over and over again ignore directives from administrators, to over and over again to ignore tenets that are set forth in the Tennessee Teacher Code of Ethics, I don't know how you supervise and manage employees who are just dead set on doing things their way rather than the right way. And I'll take any questions.
Guess we need a motion.
Mr. Chairman, I make a motion to appeal the case to the appellate court based on our attorney's advice.
Motion by Mr. Hughes. Does the motion have a second? Second by Ms. Stanley. Any further discussion on this issue?
I have a statement I could either read into the record or provide, if I could, because I'm going to be recusing myself from the vote. If I could read a statement real quick, a little bit of patience. I want to begin by stating there's way too much misinformation floating around regarding Mr. Hahn's dismissal from his position in the Sullivan County Department of Education. Essentially, it boils down to the facts on one hand and any number of opinions on the other. That said, I support everyone's right to hold their own opinions, have their own views on a whole range of topics, which includes contemporary issues. I would mention in the recent weeks, I've read dozens of comments in support of, as well as many in opposition to Mr. Hahn. In fact, there are those who believe that the decision to terminate Mr. Hahn was based on ideology of right-wingers, which certainly isn't the truth. In fact, there were Democrats and Republicans serving on the BOE, albeit all elected in nonpartisan elections at the time, while members of the public only have the information that's made available to them by all involved to formulate an opinion. But with the track record of governments at all levels, it's easy to see how many can have so much distrust. From Priester, and I'm quoting directly, and notice that the article wasn't mentioned once. In a very unhelpful diatribe, this commissioner stated several reasons not related to why Mr. Hahn was terminated. In fact, Attorney Chris McCarty just reiterated those reasons Mr. Hahn was terminated, reasons that were, and I believe, valid in those moments. While I know Mr. Hahn, while I know Matt has many great qualities as a person and as an educator, qualities if I were to take into account on their own, I would vote to reinstate him. I've known Matt since he transferred to Kingsley Elementary School from Moorbake Elementary when it closed. He arrived a Cal Lick St. Louis Cardinals fan who played T-ball for the Mets and Babe Ruth baseball in the Orioles in Bloomingdale. From then, we attended Ketcher Middle School, Sullivan North High School, where we had many classes and played some baseball together and graduated together in 1996. Hard to believe it's going to be 30 years. It's crazy. Well, Matt and I weren't and aren't the closest of friends. We do share many friends and acquaintances in common. Therefore, I believe if I were to vote for his reinstatement or if I voted to appeal the case, it would rightly be called into question by those on either side of the issue, an issue that's anything but trivial or political. Therefore, after giving this a lot of careful consideration and to avoid any real or perceived conflicts of interest, I will be recusing myself from this vote for cause. At the end of the process, if Mr. Hahn is reinstated, and I know it will be not be of any comfort to many, he will be financially compensated for what he would be owed in back pay. I'm not sure that's any consolation, but a statement of fact and seemingly a post-truth era, facts matter. In closing, patience need to be a virtue in times like this, and we must allow our system, however frustrating, to run its course. If not, then the political discourse we've witnessed in recent years will pale in comparison to what lay in store for our nation. Matt Hahn is a good man, but in this particular moment, I can't vote to continue, to appeal. At the same time, I can't vote to reinstate because I think this is too much political nonsense that's been associated with it. I'm going to allow the board to make a better informed decision. Some people have been here longer than I have. Some people that maybe can look at it from a different vantage point of not living and having grown up in the same community. Because I can see merits of both sides of the argument for sure, but at the same time, I think he was fired in that moment for cause. So that's my statement. Thank you, sir.
Any further comments? We're ready to vote.
Yes.
Yes. Yes.
Yes.
Yes.
Yes. That's all we've got on this meeting. Can I entertain a motion for adjournment of the called meeting?
Motion, Mr. Chairman.
Motion,
I'll second.
second. We're standing recess or we'll be back at 6:30 for our regular meeting. 5 minutes, yeah. Well, good evening again. We're going to get started with our regular school board meeting for the month of January, if you will, as is our custom. Stand for the moment of silence, followed by the pledge led by Ms. Stanley. Again, good evening. The first item on our agenda, as always, is the approval of the agenda. And a reminder, when you approve this agenda, you're also approving the consent agenda therein. Can I get a motion to approve? Motion by Mr. Hughes,
Second.
second by Dr. Rouse. All in favor? Aye. All right, what brings us down to the public comment on agenda items, and I don't have anybody with the forms filled out to speak on anything on the agenda. Is there anybody here to speak on agenda items? Seeing none, I'm going to turn it over to Director Carter.
Good evening. I'd like to thank everybody for being here. Good to see everybody in 2025. Off to a good start. For our director's comments tonight, I would like to say that Monday will be an in-service day. Our teachers and staff members will be back on campus for training purposes. And then Tuesday, the 7th, students will return to school for the second semester. So looking forward to the finish of this 24-25 school year, and a lot of great things still to be accomplished. On unfinished business, letter 6A is the second reading, ask for approval of the bus conduct policy. We talked about that during the work session, so if there's any questions, but we would like to make a recommendation that we approve the 6.308 bus conduct.
Heard the recommendation by Mr. Carter. Can I get a motion for approval?
Motion.
Motion by Mr. McKinley, second by Mr. Robinson. We discussed all this. We need to talk about anything else on this? Ready to vote, Ms. King.
Mr. Hughes?
Yes.
Mr. McKinley?
Yes.
Mr. Price?
Yes.
Mr. Robinson?
Yes.
Dr. Rouse?
Yes.
Ms. Stanley? Yes. Mr. Vickers?
Yes.
Letter 6B, as we discussed during the work session as well, we are in a position that it's going to take roughly $27,000 to finish the work on the press box. So it would take a resolution to pull that $27,000. Is that $27,000, will that be sufficient, Ms. Deloche, or do we need to, and Bill as well? $27,000, and that would finish out all aspects of the press box at Sullivan East High School on the football field. So I'd like to make a recommendation that we approve that to finish that project.
Recommendation by Mr. Carter,
I make that motion.
motion by Dr. Rouse,
I'll second it.
second by Mr. Vickers. Any discussion? Ready to vote?
Mr. McKinley?
Yes.
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 Dr. Rouse?
Yes.
Ms. Stanley? Yes.
Yes.
Yes. Letter 6C, this, basically, we had two options on the table to fund this project with Excel Energy Group. One is to pay the full amount from the fund balance, and the other option was to accept the EESI grant for a 1.5% interest. And then there was some discussion about should we go ahead and accept the loan, and then with the intent of paying that loan off if our fund balance allows us after this first year. So I think that's, unless there's discussion, I think that would be the recommendation.
Heard the recommendation from Mr. Carter to go ahead with the loan, 1.5% interest rate, with the intention of paying that off as soon as possible. Motion by Ms. Stanley. Second.
I'll second it.
Second by Mr. Vickers. Any further discussion on this one? Ready to vote? Yes.
Yes. Yes.
Yes.
Yes.
Yes.
On letter 6D, it's one of those situations where as we are preparing to really brighten our hallways and classrooms up around our schools, is brought to our attention. I believe Mr. Robinson, last board meeting, made the comment or recommendation that we look at Sullivan Central Middle School and the condition of the ceilings in the classrooms. I think we'd like to move forward with some type of recommendation on how.
Great.
Mr. Burchett, would you like to say anything about Mr. Owens and his history with roofs like this and what his proposal is? And this work would be done in the evenings?
Any further discussion? Ready to vote?
Yes. Yes.
Yes.
Yes.
Yes.
Yes.
All right, moving on down to new business. 7A is the recommendation by TSBA, Tennessee School Board Association, to accept the policy change on attendance, and it's basically related to the early release time. So we would be asking for a waiver of rules and adopting that on the first reading after you've had opportunity to discuss.
I think we need to motion to waive the rules to begin with.
I make a motion to waive the rules.
Motion by
Second.
Mr. Hughes, second by Dr. Rouse. Vote on that, Ms. King.
Yes.
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 Yes. Yes. And that brings us to the actual adoption of the attendance policy.
I'll make that motion now, Mr. Chairman.
Motion by Mr. Hughes. Second by Mr. Vickers. Any discussion on this? Ms. Stanley?
I just wanted to bring to the parents' attention about the release time program. I will be working with these. I just want the parents to be aware of who they are releasing their kids to for an hour. This is not through our school system, and we won't be held accountable for who they're with or what they're teaching them. I don't care what religion that the kid wants to practice. That's their First Amendment right. But what I want to bring to a parent's attention is these religious groups that are coming to get these kids are not required to have any kind of credentials, nor are they required to have a background check. When I took my daughter went on the field trip with her in middle school to DC, I had to have a background check. And I just really have an issue knowing that our kids are being released to people that has no credentials or not required to have credentials or not being required to have any kind of background check. And I just wanted to bring that to the parents' attention. I think it's important that they know who they're releasing their children to during this release time.
Just to reiterate there, Ms. Stanley, it's by statute, we don't have any say-so. We're mandated by TCA to allow this to happen. So it's not anybody up here that's allowing this to happen. It's mandated by law. Anything else? We're ready to vote.
Yes.
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 Letter 7B is in regards to our lawn care landscaping contract with Barrett's Lawn Care. At the end of the mowing season, made a request to all the principals to fill out kind of like a survey on a spreadsheet, sharing with us how things had gone this year, any kind of concerns that they had, and then any areas that we need to take into consideration that weren't being taken care of the way we had set it up this last June. Overall, comments were overwhelmingly positive. All principals were very positive about the lawn care service and how if they spoke to Mr. Barrett or any of his staff about any concerns that were immediate, that they were addressed. And so the only thing that we had were two areas that, one, inside the fence area at Sullivan Heights, there's a large bank area that he's agreed to take care of. And we can absorb that into the contract. It's minimal in comparison to this road when we originally did the contract with Barrett. And he is estimated that per month, and this would be doing this 2 times a month to do the whole length of the access road, would be an additional $1,120 per month. And so we just wanted to let the board know that's going to be additional that we'll need to pay on that this next mowing season, starting in March of 25. Ms. Deloche, remind me, do we need to do any special action there? Or is that just letting your benefit on the lawn care? Letter 7C, we had a pretty lengthy presentation about a potential daycare offering through our school system located at the annex on the Sullivan Central Middle School campus. And been asked to come back with some information within the next week or so. I should be able to provide that to the board, which would basically speak to the sustainability of this opportunity, providing the potential for income off of the student enrollment there and their fees that they would pay, and then also providing what the cost with benefits and salaries for a potential 5 employees, a center director, and then 4 employees, and yet we're probably talking about part-time on those, a morning and afternoon shift, so we don't run into any overtime or anything of that. So basically 5 employees. And then we had some other questions that we'll address as well after we get this initial information to you. Potentially having I don't want to call it a mock sign-up, but a sign-up opportunity just to see how many teachers and staff members for all of our employees would be interested in signing up for that. And then also kind of getting some feedback from a sister school district on how they went about making that available in rank. You know, if it opens up at 8 o'clock in the morning, how do we determine who gets those available slots? Because what wouldn't be filled by our employees for Sullivan County Schools, we would open up potentially for public. So, I'll get those first pieces of information, get that out to you so we can make an informed decision and possibly take a vote in February. So there'll be no action needed on that one tonight. There will be a vote next time, yes. Yes. You might want to get your,
So, sorry about that. So it says here on the mowing thing that there's 6 to 8 more mowings. And I believe the do not exceed amount need to be raised to account for those mowings. So that means the contract's being increased, correct? Besides the $1,120?
to take care of those additional.
So because what he's saying here, from what I understand, is that they're gonna start mowing mid-March
Instead of June.
instead of June, and so it's gonna be 6 to 8 more mowings. I thought the original contract was for the whole year, so that's what I was confused about.
Okay.
I didn't know if
So,
that
so
needed
we
to-
started that contract in June instead of March for the first year. I think the way it was bid out, it's a 3-year contract, so I don't know if, he hasn't talked to, Chris Davis or Michelle Ramey, but that should be, the full year would be in the contract. for
Already, so
June
there's
on.
no increase on
I
that.
don't think there's an increase there.
Okay,
He was just saying, hey, I started in June instead of March, just want to make sure y'all know that. But I think the way that it was awarded, it was for the
all right.
physical,
I
the
just,
full year.
because the way I read that was, he's like, I need to mow 6 or 8 more times than I thought, so that's,
Based on
yeah.
what he did this prior year.
Yeah, okay, all
Right.
right. I just wanted to make sure that wasn't something.
Any others? Good. All right. And so,
So, yeah, that's the confusion. Is
I'll
he's-
clarify, but I think his understanding was his 3-year contract was started in June, so he didn't have as many mowings. But going forward, the other 2 years, he would start in June and go till mowing season for that year. So that's the way the contract was awarded. And I don't,
Yeah, I think the confusion is, because I know last year when we bid on this, it was so many mowings per year, and if it was gonna be extra mowings, it was gonna be this much more. But I'm kinda like him, the 6 to 8 more, it's kinda confusing how that's wrote, so I don't know if he's planning on adding 6 to 8 more mowings per year, or if he's just letting us know that he's still gonna be within his, that we allotted. Because that's how we done that, I'm pretty sure it was a
it was a
number of
set number of mowings,
Yeah,
not months. It was.
yeah, I'm pretty sure that's how it
It,
was.
it was mowings, you're
Yeah.
correct. Let me verify that what we have in there, the number of mowings does not exceed, because I think he was just saying that without hearing from Chris or Michelle over at the purchasing department. And I see Kirsten's back there taking notes as well. Can you help me clarify that? Okay,
Because it's saying it needs to be raised, the do not exceed needs to be 6 to 8 more times.
Yeah.
all right.
Since this issue not clear, so maybe we should table B, and like we're tabling C, I think, till February.
That
That's
sounds
possible.
fine. Is it?
I don't think it required anything, any action on us tonight anyway.
So if it does change it, we would need to vote. Yeah, right. We'll bring it back. If it's an item that we do need to vote, I'll bring it back. If it's an item I just need to share the information, I can send that out to you, let you know. Does that sound good?
He's also added the Westridge, there's $280 charged for the Westridge on this. Sullivan Heights. Sullivan Heights,
And we-
and then Westridge is $560. So
Or
that's
$11.20 a month for 2 times a month.
for just Westridge, and
Right.
then it would be another $560 for Sullivan Heights a month.
And that
So
was
it'd
only
be-
gonna be, Bill, that was gonna be once or twice.
Okay,
So it wasn't gonna be like they would do it regularly.
okay, so that's like a 3-time charge or something. Yeah,
Just as
okay.
needed. All right. But I'll verify the number of mowings, bring it back to the board for approval. Number of mowings increased, question. Okay, Thank you, Mr. Figurs. So letter D is the accepting a grant. Ms. Robinette's not here this evening, but there is a special education preschool grant which allows us to provide a certain number of our students in special education. We're required to provide them with preschool, and that's what this grant is going to allow us to do. So it's just accepting the preschool grant.
Further recommendation to accept the grant.
I make that motion.
Motion by Dr. Rouse,
Second.
second by Ms. Stanley. Any discussion? Ready to vote?
Yes.
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 Letter 7E, basically what we're asking here is, last year, we had put into a restricted account $1.8 million, and there was $200,000 in there previously, which was not sufficient. That money is due to roll back in to our general purpose. But I'd like to make a recommendation and talk with Ms. Deloche about this, talk to our finance department as well. Like to make the recommendation that we do a vote to just leave that for this year, and we can continue to monitor it and see. But we're needing more than $1 million in there now to continue not being out of balance in that budget when we're making the reimbursement request and everything. So nothing would change than what we're doing. Just we would vote tonight to just leave that as it is for this year as well.
You mean
Just leave it, not adding any additional, just leaving what we've got there where it's at in that restricted account.
heard the recommendation by Mr. Carter,
I'll make that motion, Mr. Chairman.
motion by Mr. Hughes,
Second.
second by Dr. Rouse. Any further discussion? I think we're ready to vote.
Yes.
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 Turn it back over to you.
All right. Well, that brings us to our public comment section for non-agenda items, and I do have one individual, Mr. Daughtery, wishing to speak. If you would come to the podium. And again, just a reminder, if you please state your name, your address, and you have 3 minutes, and we're glad to hear you speak. The button on the.
There we go.
All right.
Please bear with me, by the way. I've got a lot to go over in a short amount of time. I'm here to speak on the dismissal of my wife. She's a bus driver. Mr. Carter was one that fired her. You all just voted on the policy, by the way, and I've got it right here, school bus conduct policy, which was showed to him by Mr. Steffi, and he said it didn't matter. What had happened, there was 2 incidents. October the 7th of 23, Israel was attacked. There was a massacre. There was a kid that rode on her bus that was on her bus making threats, got on there calling kids Jew lovers, N-word lovers, and that all these Jews must die. I had a discussion with you over the phone on that. She put him off the bus, informed the school, and informed her boss. They brought him out that evening, put him on the bus. She refused to do it. Her boss, Mr. Steffi, was called. He came up there, put him on a different bus. That issue was settled, except for the 6 men that came out on her, surrounded her. I've got pictures of it. In force, 2 of them armed, with the assistant or the principal Teo or Leo saying, "This is my house. You will do what I tell you to do." That's what he said. and multiple witnesses that. Fast forward to November when she got dismissed. Same kid put back on her bus, gets on there, multiple write-ups on this kid. Multiple write-ups to the school and to her boss. The first incident, she was told from now on to report to her boss. She did. The kid got on there making threats, jumped up and come at her, threatened to knock her teeth down her throat. The aide, which was our son, stood in between them. She had them escorted onto a bus behind her, according to your policy. Mr. Carter said he's going to do an investigation on it. His investigation was to talk to the kids who he threatened. The parents, I've got the text from the parents where he said that they would be suspended if they didn't come clean. So you run the school with intimidation and fear. You got a director using intimidation and fear against students, firing people for going by your own policy. That's what happened. I've got evidence. I've got testimonies and statements. I'm asking for an appeal to her dismissal. 18 years she was with you. I've got her service record right here. Right there it is. You can have it. Look at it. Exemplary. But when fear and intimidation and threats are being made in disregard of school policy, the dress code's being disregarded. Go up there and look. Look at the kids coming in. I know my time's up. Give me one more second. I'm losing my breath. I got asthma. What has happened here was retribution for what had happened the first time at that school. I can prove it. That's all it was. He fired her because she stood up and said that she was going to defend her kids on her bus, and he didn't fire her the first time because for whatever reason, but the second time he looked for a reason to fire her. I can prove it. I'm asking every one of you all, and you need to recuse yourself from it. Every one of you all need to look into this. Every one of you all do. Talk to the kids. Talk to those kids up there at that school. I've got grandkids, nieces, and nephews goes up there, and they will tell you. I've had parents tell me, I can't say nothing for fear of retribution against my kids. Not me. Talk to them. But I'm asking you all to look into this and to tell her how to file an appeal. She can't even get it from the central office. I can't get it. What does she got to do to file an appeal? He needs to be looked into because he threatened these kids. I'm telling you he did. Or the parents are telling me he did. I don't know. I'm just going by what the parents said. Thank you for Dover, and I appreciate your time, but it needs to be looked into. 3 minutes ain't enough. Not for that now. And by the way, what do I need to do about an appeal?
We'll speak to you after the meeting.
Thank you.
All right, that brings us down to my comments. I guess the first thing is we need to set February's meeting date. Is that the 6th, is that right? 6th, February 6th. Everybody good with that? February 6th. Work session at 4:30. Regular meeting at 6:30. Everybody good with that? All right. Only thing I got is I can't believe Christmas has come and gone and we're in 2025 and before we know it, we'll be doing graduations and where's the year gone? I'm excited about some of these programs we're hearing about. I think especially this child care program has great potential to be a huge benefit to our employees of this system. I think if we can get get that worked out and figured out. I think it's gonna be great. I'm just looking forward to what all, we can do in the future to keep forging ahead, because I think we're going in the right direction, and, all that's tied into CTE and all the programs and the grant money we're getting, it's just a good feeling to be a part of this system, and, that's about all I've got. Dr. Rouse, I'm gonna start down your end.
I don't have anything to add to that, except time is going fast. Just so proud of our Sullivan County kids and teachers and everything that we're accomplishing. Mr. Carter, I appreciate you every day and the work that you do. I appreciate working with this board, who I do thoroughly believe that we think, that we pray over each and every decision that we make, and it's a pleasure to work with you. Thank you.
Perfect, thank you. Happy New Year to everybody. I want to say, what I thought was, next year will be my 30-year high school reunion. It's kind of weird what you thought was important as a young person, and now you get older, you're thinking, what's really important is the lives and livelihoods of other people, how we treat other people. I think one thing we should do is review the policy with regards to termination, regardless of whatever position you have, so that way we can ensure that it's a fair policy for everybody. And at the same time, when somebody is terminated, they should be, instructed as to regards to what their review policy is, or their rebuttal, if you will. I think we should maybe look at that over the next couple of months. Right, you know what I'm saying? But we should look at, I think, our policy. Yeah, just to make sure that it's all in the up and up, because looking at, Mr. Hahn's case here as an example, I'm not going to go back and relitigate, but a lot of misinformation out there as to why he was fired. I think, if we put out what we can up front, I think we're going to eliminate a lot of that. But people can go find the information, whatever. I don't know what the right answer here is, but it seems to be that the BOE is always going to be under fire for one thing or another. But if we can eliminate some of those instances by being more transparent and open, I think that would help a lot of situations out. But anyway, thank you all very much.
Yes, sir. First of all, I wanted to make a suggestion that maybe sometime this spring, when the agenda will allow and the weather will allow, that we take each meeting, maybe we go to a school, walk through that school. I took a tour of Central after the maintenance breakfast, and even though I've been in that school a lot, I saw things I'd never seen before. I think it would do everybody good, and I want to commend Paul for bringing up the roof at Central, because that's going to make a huge difference in that school. So that's something you guys can think about. The other thing is, I wanted to say something about our HR lady and Ingrid Deloche. I have a high level of confidence in everything she does. I wanted to know how much I appreciate all the hard work she puts into her job. The other thing is, I wanted to ask the director and the chairman to maybe consider bringing our exchange students that we have in the system to a meeting. I have had the pleasure to meet several of them at basketball games and so forth, and it was such a treat for me to get to meet these young ladies, and I think you'll be impressed, and I think it's something we don't know enough about. I got to talk to them, a lot of them, about where they came. One came from Spain, and it's very educational for me. So if we could, and some of them are leaving quite soon, so yeah, so if we could, as soon as possible. That's all I got to say, Mr. Chairman. Thank you very much.
Mr. Vickers?
Yeah, Happy New Year, everybody. It's, every Christmas, things, open my eyes at least, going around, interacting with people and stuff like that. And, I had kind of a rough Christmas. Won't get into that, but, it just makes you think about what's precious in life. And, life is precious. What's here one day is gone the next. And, it comes New Year, seems like in a blink of the eye. You know, I look back and it just blows my mind on things that I just, you know, I felt like I did yesterday and it was 5 years ago, you know. And they say that with more age, it speeds up. So there's a lot of theories behind that, but it's interesting none the least. But you know, I just think that you know, people you know, be a little kinder, a little bit more love with everybody. You know, it's weird coming from me. 20 years ago, I'd have never thought that type of stuff. You know, but yeah, and you know, just watching the lights flicker on and off